The Basin.
Basin Podcast.
We're here.
It's awesome. It's good to be here. How are you doing?
I'm tired. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm having a pain on my eye, but it's good. We're here. We're doing this. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's been crazy a few days. It's gonna be our last episode of our first season of
Yeah.
the Basin Podcast. It's amazing to know that we started with the intent for us to continue, have our first series, and then continue with that. And it's good to see that we've done multiple podcasts already.
Yeah, we've come a long way.
Yeah, it's an
Come a
amazing.
long way.
You never realize how much podcast, how much it entails, how much preparation,
I
the
know.
logistics, the planning,
I
all
know.
the things we play in. And even in the midst of like so many people doing a podcast, it's kind of like at this point you would think it's just turn on your camera and you're good to go.
Yeah, it's a lot of things. But I think I've enjoyed the process, though. I've enjoyed just the topics we've talked about. We had a lot of series, a lot of episodes. The conversations have been good. I think I've always been one to like have deep conversations, and not everyone shares our point of view on the things we talk about, but I love to hear the differences. I do know that you and I tend to agree a lot. So it's good to find topics going forward that we might not always agree. Yeah.
You guys can agree on each other. Like, how did you marry somebody that agrees with you all the time?
No, I think agreeing is good, but we can't agree on every single
We
subject.
obviously don't agree on every single thing because we have a conflict. We started with like our first one was relationship challenges. And
Our
then
first series, you mean?
our first series that we talked about, which is called Blog Podcast in there.
Yeah.
So our first series was relationship challenges. We really talked about, just challenges that comes with being a couple.
Yeah.
Being a boyfriend, girlfriend.
Yeah.
Being a husband and a wife.
Yeah.
Managing life, the uphill, the up and down.
Setting boundaries
Setting boundaries.
with families and friends, especially when you're a newlywed.
About
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
which is interesting. you
Yeah.
know. Do you recall any specific moment out of a couple of episodes that stood out to you?
I think I like the setting boundaries episode, our very first one.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that a lot of people still struggle with, setting boundaries with friends. Even if you're not in a relationship, just personal boundaries, setting boundaries with family, setting boundaries in relationships. Even setting boundaries for yourself.
Yeah.
The aspect of boundaries is something that people struggle with. It's not just romantic relationships, it's work relationships, it's family relationships. So that episode still resonates with me to this day. I think I always refer back to it because I agree with a lot of the things that we said there. I also like the red flags episode that we had talked about. I don't think we did justice to the topic of red flags. So that's something that at some point in time, I think we should revisit it. Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely, there's so much to cover on these topics. And I agree with you too. I think boundaries and a lot of things we talked about managing relationship there, that was very good.
Yeah.
There was this quote that people only go as far as what you allow them to do. Right. So a lot of times if you're not so sure of yourself and you allow people to do whatever, that's the level of respect and honor you're going to get.
Oh, yeah.
But when you set boundaries for you,
Oh, yeah.
in fact, you as an individual, you are strengthened, you're empowered.
Absolutely.
Because you're setting those boundaries. And boundary is not you trying to draw a line away from others. But it's also like to develop a place of this is my line of respect and honor and dignity, and this is what makes me me, and this is what makes you you.
So there's a sweet spot where having healthy boundaries without not having a boundary for everything, because relationships are needed. We are all built on relationships. So I do think that at some point in time, again, I would love to revisit that, think through what we've said, get thoughts from others as well. But I do know that we live in a society today that is very individualistic, selfish, self-centered. So people can take that word boundary and make it very self-centered and saying, respect my boundary, don't cross this line, and you begin to break relationships. So anyway.
You don't want to draw boundaries to the point where you're isolating people entirely. You definitely don't want, if a boundary is making you an individual all by yourself, there's something wrong somewhere.
Yeah.
But another series that we also covered that you and I talked to is the managing friendship.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things too that we're like, we have friends in your life. One of the ones I can remember, and I think we talked about, you and I had this conversation, was friendship, from identifying what roles of friends actually are in your life. And then we talked about that some friends are confident and they're meant to be, there are very few people who should be confident. Like, you don't go all around. Like, if every girl in your life is a bestie and you like talk about your life to every single 10, 20, there's something wrong somewhere.
Absolutely.
So you should have like few people that know you in and out. Like, they would go to war with you. So those are the people that identify as confident. And then there were the people that we identified as comrades, that those people are seasonal, right? They're like friends. They're seasonal because maybe they share what you share, maybe because you go to church together, maybe because you work in the same place, maybe because you're a bunch of attorneys and that you guys are attorneys together. So that friendship is coming from a mutual benefit. Like, there's a goal. So they are not besties, but they are people
Yeah.
that they're there for a season, and they help you, they guide you, you respect them, they respect you. And the third group of people, knowing where they are, is once you start going into a leadership perspective, you realize that you're having more people that fall into this group, which are the constituents.
Yeah.
So these people are looking at you like, what do you have in your hands? What can you offer me? Believe me, this person is not your wife or your husband. They're not gonna go through you, go all the way to the end, through you. Like, if there's a bad reputation that comes in, a lot of these people will disappear. Whether if it's true or not, once your image is tarnished a little bit, they're gonna abandon you. But they are there as long as you have something you're feeding them.
They are the crowd.
They are
I
the
call them the crowd. The crowd of Jesus. Like, I think I'll put my faith spin on it. And if you think about Jesus Christ, he had his close knitted 3 disciples who followed him to the intimate places.
Yeah.
He had the disciples, 12 and 100 and something disciples around him.
Yeah.
And then the Bible says he had a crowd. So when you say the comrade, constituents, and the third one, constituent, comrades, and what was the third one you said?
The
Close.
constituents, comrades, and confidants.
Confidence, yeah. So I feel like that I just see a picture of Jesus Christ modeled that. Peter, James, and John were his confidence. Those 12 disciples and the others were his comrades, and then the constituents were the crowds.
It's good because that's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah.
Like, I thought of Peter. Out of the 12, there were specific.
Those 3, Peter, James, and John.
Peter, James, and John, that Jesus Christ was spending time actively with them, like discipling them. And then out of that, there was the 12.
Yeah.
Those ones are probably what we call comrades. Like, they're committed to Jesus for the time being. Even one betrayed Jesus.
One betrayed amongst the comrades. Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's the 5,000 that Jesus Christ fed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the fish and
Yeah.
the bread and the fish, and know that there are people that will not show up when the bread has run out. And when the fish has
Exactly.
run out.
Exactly. So I think Jesus Christ modeled that. The challenge that we see today is that because of social media and Facebook friends, social media followers, everyone feels like they should have a lot of people. But I don't like to have, I think when I start having too many people around me that see themselves as my close friend, something is wrong somewhere. Because I need you to know where you sit in my life. I need you to know who you are to me so we can have clear expectations of our relationship.
It's true. And honestly, I think that the situations where sometimes people misplace where people are.
Yeah.
And how people perceive themselves. And I think I've been in that situation where I've taught of people to be like besties for life. I've taught of individuals.
Best. I hate that term.
I know, we're gonna get to that point. Like, where the people are considered as like lifelong, people, because you have that heart. You are very loyal, and sometimes that might not be that the people you're hanging around with. They might not see you the way you see them.
Yeah.
You're seeing them as, wow, we share with each other, we do a lot of things together, and then you might realize that they see you as a comrade. You see them as lifetime, they see you as seasonal.
Yeah.
So
It
a
happens.
lot of times unexpected expectations lead to disappointment.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think we also went into talking about between you and I, what I remember was bestie, like me being your bestie, and you keep using the word closest friend. Anyway,
I
I'm
won't hit
forgiving
that.
you.
I
I
won't
will
go
let that
there.
go. I
I
think I'm
won't go
forgiving
there.
you because you're like, I don't have a best friend. You have a closest friend. I'm the closest
If
friend,
I
and
were
I'm
to pick
like,
a best friend, it has to be you. There's nobody else who's the best in my life,
but it feels by
Jerry. I
default.
beg.
But we're gonna cut
I
it
don't spend
there.
my energy thinking about that. You are the closest human being in my life right now. But then we touch. I think my favorite series of everything, even from the response of our audience, I feel like the gender roles series
Yeah, which is a
hit a
good one.
lot. Yeah.
The men, yeah, the men and the women, the role of
Yeah.
a man, the role of a woman. You and I, like, I'm very passionate about young men. I just feel
Yeah.
like this is my perspective here, and I'm not speaking for others. You have a society that has been very unfair in the sense that isolate a lot of young men. We are
Yeah.
living in a world where it almost feels like a lot of frustrations that people have towards men is taking on the wrong generation.
It's taking. Yeah. It's kind of like.
Yeah.
When we started the series, I didn't think it was going to resonate as much as it has.
Yeah.
And because it has resonated as much as it has, I realized that this is something that is truly burning in the hearts of many. Many are being silent because they don't want to be canceled or whatever repercussion that comes in with the feminist movement, and a lot of conversations going on from a media perspective. But I do feel like because it has resonated so much, this is bothering people. Like, we are going from an extreme wrong where women were being mistreated in previous generation to now I feel like a lot of young men are being hit with that, because it's not the older men who are being affected. It's the younger generation who are trying to find themselves that are being affected by the negative attack on men.
It almost feels like they are becoming they're becoming the element of the venom of the past. Like they are, a lot of things are being poured on them that doesn't belong to
They
them.
don't belong to
They're
them.
taking out battery, so that includes our generation as well, which is not your battery, which is a battery on the other generation, but it's taking on the next generation. Like we have to, it almost feels like we have to tame this man,
Yeah.
which a lot of them already tamed.
And it feels like an extreme wrong. You go from one extreme wrong to another extreme wrong. And I also feel like there's also a conversation among some women, which I'm part of that, is like a lot of women want to go back to being stay-at-home moms. Like there was this fight for like women should be in the workplace, women can do what a man can do, women can do this. And if you listen to some of the conversations that are happening online and in different places, there is a group of women who are like, why was there a fight for women's right to go into the workplace?
What was the source of that conversation?
Yeah, like because some of us really just want to stay home and be with our kids, and now we are forced to be in the workplace. Like, I think all in all, right? There is a need to embrace, and I feel like we talked about this in one of the gender roles episodes. As men and women, we should begin to embrace who we are as God created us to be.
I realized that I become more of a man the more I invest and cultivate those surroundings.
Absolutely, because that's how God made you to be. You're not trying to be somebody that you're not.
And honestly, too, I do think there's a lot of opportunities on platform for us to inspire and encourage women. And I do think those infrastructures that we've had before, where men could be men, boys could be boys, those infrastructures are being removed.
Of course, like the Boy Scout. It was you who told me that.
Yeah, almost to the point where they're being demarcated, they're being demolished.
Yeah.
To the point of no existence at all.
Yeah.
And I do think we still need that safe space.
Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
what we don't want is men who are abusive, who use their strength as a way to oppress others.
And it's in the desire to attack men who are like that, or I wouldn't say attack, but to go against men who are abusive, that all the men who are good, who are great men, are being equally attacked as well. They are the victims of this narrative. Like I see some posts where some women say, "Where are all the good men?" I'm like, look around you. There are a lot of good men around you. Open your eyes, you will see them. It's just that you pay too much attention at the ones who are not so good because they look fly or they look attractive in whatever way. But the ones who might not come across attractive as society calls attractive, they are overlooked and they become victim of wrong narrative of who men are. Personally, I feel like, just like you, my heart goes out to men, and seeing how our message has resonated to a lot of our audience on men, I feel like it's something that we need to have more voices speaking up on men. Too many voices are speaking up for women, which is good, but we need an equal amount of voices speaking up for men. And
There's an outcry. There's an outcry for a lot of people out there to realize that, wait, I'm feeling ostracized.
Yeah.
That I'm feeling removed from our society.
Yeah.
I'm going through so much. I'm finding my place. I'm being denied a lot, but at the same time, I'm being blamed for the problems of the society, for the vices of the society.
Yeah.
Which in reality is like, I mean, really, there's a really gap between hyper ultra successful men and an average man out there. And those
I hear
who
you.
are extremely successful are not a reflection of the society.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, an average person is trying to be a better man. A lot of times, first of all, you don't have good examples. And I did talk about discipline and discipleship as well.
Yeah.
That a man needs to be disciplined, a man needs to be there to disciple and lead others.
Yeah.
And those are two major areas that,
Absolutely.
as a woman, what roles that doesn't make you, less
No,
significant.
I think most women, the role of a woman is so clear cut. It's when you fight against your God-given instinct as a woman is when it becomes unclear. It's really hard to say. Women naturally are nurturers. Women care for those who are in their sphere of influence and even those outside. You don't have to teach a woman how to be a woman, right? It's when a woman tries to be a man that she now needs to figure out her purpose. Like this whole desire to figure out my purpose in life is something that's very easy. But moving to the next thing, I kind of want us to talk about what our summer is going to look like.
Oh yeah, I think you should start up. Yeah, we talked about that. So
Yeah.
got something exciting for you guys. We're gonna be by the beach and making podcasts.
I don't know about that.
We're gonna be cruising, making podcasts.
I don't know about
We're
that.
gonna be in Argentina making podcasts.
I don't know about
what we're
that.
gonna
I
be
don't
doing.
know. You're calling out all these things. But I love the fact that we are done with season 1 of the Basin Podcast. This has been a fun season. This has been a really fun season. Going into the summer, we're not stopping, but I love the fact that we are considering just making it fun, changing out the kind of topics we talk about, where we film from, what kind of conversations we have. And there are many people who watch us who don't know who we are. Like, we're going to reintroduce ourselves to you to tell you who's Bust.
We need to loosen up a little bit too, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think we're pretty loose, but it's just for the audience to get to know us too. Who's Bust, who's EJ? What makes you you?
Why should we be listening to this, guys? Where you guys got? There are like thousands of podcasts. Why do we need to listen to this? Two guys who have podcasts, and what's their message?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I do think it's, it's always kind of cool, being transparent, being authentic, and I think that's what we're trying to reflect who we truly are. So
Yeah.
the summer is going to be fun.